So, have you been feeling like you are so ready this year to run forward with your dreams and your goals and your plans, but instead it's felt like the universe has had you strapped to a giant bungee cord? Well, this episode is with you. Welcome to another episode of the Light Path podcast with me, your host, Kirsten Leo. I'm so happy to be joining you today to talk about something that I have seen come up a lot in readings recently with clients, but also personally in my own experience, where we feel like collectively that some of us are in a massive holding pattern. In full disclosure, I feel like I have been in this pattern for maybe 12 to 18 months, and it has brought up all the frustration, all the impatience, but it's also brought up some really deep lessons about the power of the pullback. This year for many of us has felt like one giant inhale, like a holding of the breath before that big exhale. And if you know the symbol of Sagittarius, the archetype of the archer, you'll know that in order to shoot an arrow really far forward and in true direction, first you have to pull back. And in the pullback, there is a lot of strength required. There is a lot of stillness required. And there is a lot of precision and patience required to create the perfect amount of tension, but also get the perfect aim and to trust the divine timing of when it's time to let that go. So I invite you to imagine that now, that arrow being pulled back, that string really tight, and that tension, that anticipation, that you might be wondering, why on earth are we just not moving forward yet? So in this episode, I'm going to discuss some of the possible energetic reasons why, but I want to preface it by firstly stating that we won't know some of the reasons why maybe now or ever, because we live in a complex vibrational universe where things ebb and flow according to some type of predictable energetic patterns. We use the planetary placements and the stars for that in astrology. We can use even the human design of the earth and of the collective for that. We can use numerology, and of course we can go deeply into our own intuition in order to navigate with some predictability. But it isn't an exact science, and nor should it be, because whenever we desire something, especially from our ego, which all desire really comes from, let's be honest, we are very impatient, and maybe sometimes we have a little bit of stubbornness in terms of the when it's all unfolding. So I hope this episode gives you some comfort if you're feeling this way, maybe gives you some context to perhaps why things are unfolding the way that they are, and also some really practical ways in which we can actually use this time of the strategic pullback more effectively rather than frustratingly trying to fight it. So first up, let's look at the symbolism of the archer, because for me, this is the best way I can describe it. And it really came up at I think it was it must have been the full moon. I can't remember. One of the moons in Sagittarius this year. And in the moon membership, I discussed this a lot, and it gave me a lot of solace, to be really honest with you. It must have been a new moon in Sagittarius recently, like a few months ago. And it really gave me a lot of comfort and a lot of solace, because I finally started to see, oh, this is what has been happening for me. This is what is happening for me now. And giving it this context and learning from the archetype of Sagittarius really helped calm my nervous system, maybe placate some of my egoic impatience around not propelling forward, or around feeling stuck, or like there really wasn't flow happening. So Sagittarius is represented by the archer, and this archetype really is the symbolic representation of vision and of truth seeking. it's definitely all about forward moving motion and expansion. I mean, the Sagittarius archetype is all about exploration and learning and sharing ideas. But the reason it holds the arrow and is the archer ultimately, I think, is because it reminds us that the arrow can really only propel and fly forward because there has been a pullback. So we can't propel forward without some type of counterbalance tension within that. Wayne Dyer always used to speak about how when you high jump, you have to get really low to get really high. And I always remember this when I'm going through a period of struggle or things just aren't working out, or I'm in a deep shadow episode or dark night of the soul when I'm questioning a lot, or I just don't feel myself, or whatever it is. I remember that because when you're low, it's actually the opportunity to propel yourself high. If you use the strength from the low, the lessons from the low, the opportunity to transform from the low, you can propel high. Same type of concept here. The pullback, so what you might be feeling like the holding pattern, things are just not moving forward. Maybe things feel stuck, like there's not a lot going on. Maybe you don't feel like you have motivation at the moment to start something new, a lack of energy, like everything's just feeling blah. Personally, in my life, I have felt for the last year to 18 months, like actually a beautiful shaman reflected this back to me in my own experience. He's like, you've prepared the fire so you can fuel the rocket ship to take off. And you've been doing all the work and you've created all the things and you've set everything up. And so the fire is going, like it's there, but the rocket ship is not launching, like it's not pushing off. And so you're thinking, oh, I've got to put more wood on the fire. I've got to do more. I've got to be more. I've got to seek more. I've got to expand more. But maybe it's just that what you've done so far needs to build its own identity, energy, momentum before it shoots the rocket off. And the reality is we don't always have control over the timing of that. Remember, control, the idea that we are in supreme control, is such a fallacy of the ego. And we can spend a lot of our energy and time really trying to ensure we are in control, doing everything we can to manage the internal and the external circumstances so we feel comfortable and safe. But I have to say, when we do that, we're limiting ourselves a lot because we're not open to the synchronicities, the perfect order. And more often than not, we're going to come up against them anyway, right? So then we're even more frustrated because we've put all this energy into the control. So that doesn't mean we take our hands off the wheel and we freeload and we just see what happens, like Jesus, take the wheel. No. What it means is we do what we feel called and inspired to do, but we also deeply respect and flow with the natural timing and unfolding of the entire universe around us. This universe isn't here to serve us. We are here to co-create with it, which means that it has a say. And when I say it, the universe, that's everything. That's sure the energetics of the universe, but it's also every single other living being that is on this planet. Like, you might be so ready for a loving, committed relationship, but what if the right people for you and for that role to play with each other, what if they're not ready? No amount of you doing more work is going to make them more ready. Sometimes you need to sit in the holding pattern and trust the timing, trust the process, trust that you've actually done enough and you're just being pulled back for the right amount of tension to occur when the time is right, when the opportunity presents, when the other people or person or community, whatever it is ready to receive you and to meet, that you shall. I recently came across this beautiful guidance for myself that said, you will not be met in stillness, you will be met in motion. Because I have felt like I've been so stuck and so stagnant because the things that I have desired have not been working out. The things that I've wanted to create seem to just not happen. the flow that I used to have in my life dried up. Everything feels a bit haphazard. And sure, I can look out into the world and see why. In my business, for example, I can see the terrible economies that we're all in. I can see the fear that is in people. I can see the uncertainty and the instability. And that is going to affect everyone in terms of, for example, how they choose and discern to spend their money right now. I can look at all that, but at the same time, I can also see that people are spending their money and there is opportunity for growth and, things shift in the economy. So it brings a little hope, but it's really slow and all of the stuff. But really, at the end of the day, at some point, I just have to surrender to the pullback. Because what happens when we don't pull back as a form of precision? We're going to run into and force and create things that are not in our timing, that are not actually naturally and authentically right for us. We're creating the pseudo experience of it. But if we choose to sit in the pullback as a time for precision, then what we're going to do, we're not going to drop the arrow. We're not going to throw our toys out of the pram, because we know that the pullback has to contain some tension, or otherwise it will flop. So that tension that I'm feeling within, instead of fighting it or solving it, I embrace it. I'd be like, yeah, okay, do you know what? I'm really impatient. Yeah, I'm really frustrated. And then I get to the authentic, loving core of why I might be really frustrated and really annoyed and really impatient. And it's because I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about what I want to put out there and what I want to make available to people. And it's that passion, it's that desire that's making me frustrated, not necessarily that it's not happening now. And when I look at it like that, it feels a lot more of a nourishing circumstance rather than things aren't working out for me. Why isn't it working out for me? What is wrong with me? And all those stories that we can go into. And that way, that drawback, the pullback, is not punishment, it's preparation. And this is where you have to absolutely just surrender into the faith of perfect order and perfect timing. Again, knowing that our control over it is not required. Our preparation for it is, and that is the only thing that is required. We have our portal of power in preparation. Preparation for what we desire. Preparation for who we desire to be in order to align with what it is we desire to experience. And that is it. That is our portal of power. Preparation. It is not punishment if it is not happening yet. When you view it as punishment, you're probably looking at it in terms of you wanting to control the timeline. Go back to your portal of power, which is the preparation. And when you have prepared enough, stop, sit, and hold space for yourself in that. Find ways to express it and walk with that confidence, that grace, that knowing, that mission in many different forms, rather than just focusing on the form you want to express it in and looking at it as punishment when you can't. And lastly, you need to be really still before the release, where the alignment is refined. We're always rushing. Yes, life will not meet us when we're standing still, but sometimes we need a moment of pause to clarify, to collect, to center. Think about that athlete that is running up for that high jump. They don't just waltz up to the line and then boom, start running. They stop, they pause, they're probably visualizing it, they're centering themselves. They're drawing all their focus in for that moment. And so maybe this, even though it feels like a long time, maybe this extended pause is just for that. But here are some maybe like astrological reasons why it's happening. We have to acknowledge that 2025 is a 9-year in numerology. And 9 years are culmination years. They're all about endings. They're all about completions. They're all about tying up cycles that began 9 years ago and have transpired over the last 9 years. So technically, energetically speaking, it's not usually the year where things sprint forward into the new. And I know that's counteracting what we've talked about in the astrology, given that this is the year that we went into this new age of Aquarius. And I do believe that like when something ends, it's because something else is beginning. But that doesn't necessarily always mean it fires, crackles, starts straight away. As soon as something ends, something new begins. Because when something ends, we need, time. We need time to reflect. Maybe we need time to grieve. Maybe we need time and a process of releasing what was, letting it go, learning who we are without it before we sprint into the initiation and the creation of the new. This is a year of so much release of what is no longer required nor needed. And it's an opportunity to wipe our life slate clean before we begin that next chapter in 2026, where we start a 1-year cycle of initiation. So energetically, I understand the attention, I feel it, because we can feel both the urge to move forward and the weight of cycles that need closure. And it's sometimes difficult to hold those two things at the same time. That push or pull sensation, though, it is part of the design. It is necessary. So when we try to avoid it by propelling ourselves into the new, to create it before it's ready, to get frustrated in the pullback, then we're distorting that and we're not honoring that part of the design. So why the pullback happens for us energetically, and again, the timing is not up to us. Like I said, for me, this has been happening for a year to 18 months. Might be happening to you just for a few months, or maybe even you're just starting to feel this now. And I really want to stress that there's no it's not a school, there's no timing for it. Just because I've been going through it for 18 months doesn't mean you'll go through it for 18 months. You could go through it for 18 minutes, who knows? But we're just all respecting our personal journeys. So why it energetically happens is because before alignment, before acceleration into alignment, there has to be that moment where old patterns, outdated beliefs, relationships, and commitments are untangled from our arrow's path. Alignment before acceleration, always. And sometimes we think we're ready, but there's energetic misalignments that we often can't see. I had an experience recently where I felt I was really ready for something, and it kind of presented. It wasn't perfect, but it kind of presented. And this thing kept getting dragged out, but I was still really on board with it. I still thought that this was an opportunity I wanted to pursue. And as the time dragged out, as more conversations happened about this opportunity, I really started to see that there was a lot of misalignment in it, even though on paper it made sense to me. And so that holding pattern, these conversations for me personally have been going on since February this year. It is now August. In that holding pattern, did I feel frustrated things weren't happening and flowing? Yes. Did I feel annoyed? Yes. Was I wondering why it wasn't flowing? Yes. Was I desperate for it to happen? Yes. But I wasn't desperate for it to happen out of purpose and flow and love. I was desperate for it to happen out of survival. Just as valid in a lot of ways, but not great, not truly aligned. And so in this holding pattern, I've been able to see that there is so much misalignment energetically, which is translating into the physicality of the opportunity, that I can more confidently now say no to that opportunity. Whereas before, and still to an extent now, it doesn't really make sense to say no to it because it would meet a fraction of my survival needs, but it's not right. So thank goodness for this holding pattern. Because if I wasn't in it, then I wouldn't have seen these old patterns that I was about to jump into again. These outdated levels of my own worthiness that I was willing to, negotiate, even though in truth I'm not. A commitment that I would have made that I can see I would not have felt good honoring. Another reason for the pullback is so we can energetically calibrate. So together, remember, we're all energetic beings, we're all vibrating at a frequency, and we're attracting each other in order to fine-tune our frequency or match it always. And so the pullback, part of this could be trusting that your frequency needs more tuning into the desired frequency of the destination you're heading towards. So if you go too soon, you may overshoot it. If you go too late, you may steer off course, or it may be off course to somewhere else. And this is where we have to trust in divine timing and perfect order. Like I said, preparation is your power. So that's really all you can do at this point when you're in this holding pattern. Just keep playing with the preparation, keep enjoying being that version of yourself that you feel is ready, whilst at the same time holding space and opportunity to know that you don't know what's going on. You don't know the full picture. And so this can be a protection mechanisms as well. In the pullback, a lot of strength is also built. And I do not want to underestimate this one, because in this holding pattern, in this pullback, you are developing faith, you are developing patience, you are developing emotional resilience, and you are developing energetic stability within yourself. All of these things are so invaluable and often cannot be cultivated when we're propelling forward all the time, when we're getting our desires met and our needs met even all the time immediately. So what you're building here, this energetic and vibrational strength, will serve you so much further into the future than you can ever imagine now. Yes, it feels frustrating now. Yes, it feels uncomfortable now. But that doesn't mean it is not serving you for your highest purpose and good. That alone, the strength building, is enough for me to justify, to feel comfortable in the energetic pullback or the holding pattern that many of us feel that we're in now. Because we don't have that strength, we won't be able to maintain nor hold the new that we're so desiring. Also look at why you're desiring the new so bad. Let's just say, like, I hear this a lot. I'm so ready for a relationship. I've done all the work. And yep, fair enough. That might be very, very true. It might be very, very true. But if you are searching for this relationship, I would say that the holding pattern is a really good opportunity, if you feel like you've done all the work, to look at why do I want this so much and where am I not giving that to myself? And what egoic thing can I clear out here? It's such a place for exploration. And finally, course correction. In this stillness, in this holding pattern, you might get insights that change your aim entirely, just like I talked about for my own circumstance. If I had had these conversations back in February and they'd materialized into something by the April, May, or even the June, I would have said yes. And it's only transpired in the last couple of months that it's actually a no. It's not an easy no to say, but I also understand the power of the no in saying no to what is not right for you. The yes can come through more strongly, because my worthiness, the dedication to myself, and the discipline I have to maintain that vibration with myself is so strong, it's going to be matched. How? I don't know. So it's a leap of faith in the no, but I know that there's so much more power in the no than there is in the yes. So in this course correction, you're better to pivot now than mid-flight, right? It would have been much more awkward and harder for me to get out of this commitment than it is to say no in the first place, with information I didn't have back in February in terms of making my decision about it. But I get it. We're feeling frustrated. We're feeling stagnant. We're feeling blah. We're feeling ick. So how do we navigate that? Well, first of all, let's just acknowledge it's not easy, right? Especially with these really strong visions and drive and desires we have. I get it. It's not easy. So let's just call it what it is. It's frustrating. And these common emotions in this phase, like of restlessness, of self-doubt, of questioning the timing, and the fear that you're missing your window of opportunity, they're going to come up. And that doesn't mean we have to hold on to them. Remember, emotions are just energy in motion. So let them rise, feel them, but also let them release. Because there is a danger of forcing the release, like shooting too soon, It's going to waste momentum, and it can cause burnout and disappointment because it isn't so much aligned. And this is where it becomes this holding pattern that you may be feeling like you're in becomes an act of courage, not passive resignation to what is, but active trust. And this is why developing a relationship with your intuition is so important. This is why understanding energetics and seeing the world as energy and other people and the way the chessboard is constantly shifting and playing out is so empowering, because you can see this is not a me thing, this is a we thing. And then you can enjoy the experience of humaning through an energetics lens rather than through maybe a victimizing or passive lens. And not everything's going to work out for you. Okay, I don't care how many astrologers you see, readers you see, healers you see, not everything is going to work out for you how you want it to. So it's also an opportunity to mature into that resignation that, do you know what, not everything's going to work out for me, and that is actually more than perfect. Because if what I can imagine is good for me is this much, can you imagine the whole entire universe, what it can, imagine for me? And yes, you are going to feel disappointed. You are going to feel frustrated. You're going to feel all of these things. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're wrong. You're doing something wrong. It just means you are part of the collective and you're feeling that intensely. And that is so beautiful. So how do we surrender to this without losing momentum? Okay, mindset shifts. That you're not stuck, that you're storing potential energy. In that pullback, that's what you're doing. You're building, you're creating potential tension energy to propel you forward. That this pause, this holding pattern, it is purposeful, even if you can't see what that purpose is yet. Trust, there is a higher purpose playing out here. And it's okay to feel frustrated by it, but it doesn't mean I don't have to surrender to it as well. And know that this pullback means the launch is being aligned for maximum reach. Like I said, I feel like I've been feeling this fire underneath so many rocket ships I have, ready to propel into the universe and put out there. I've been fueling these fires, these visions, these desires, and taking action for a really long time. Yes, I felt all the negative energy as well, but I then remind myself, this pause is purposeful. It's not the right time for whatever reason I don't know now. I'm not stuck. I'm storing, building potential energy, and this launch, it's going to reach maximum velocity when it happens. So we have to practice daily faith, daily creativity, and daily self-belief in order for us not to spiral in these times. See, we're learning so much in these times. Daily faith, acts of faith, like affirmations, like I trust the timing of my life. My arrow will fly when the moment is right. I will be met in momentum when the moment is right. Daily acts of courage, like micro actions to affirm your commitment. Maybe if it's work, it might be updating your website. It might be putting stuff out there on social media, even if it doesn't land yet. It might be refining your offer. It might be practicing your craft. It might be, acts of love and service to yourself or others, even if it's not a romantic connection. Those daily micro acts of courage really affirm your commitment to your desire without having the absence of it completely drown you or frustrate you. Creativity is a beautiful way to treat this incubation phase. Ideas might be brewing under the surface that are better than the ones that you have now. So journal, continue to vision board, continue to meditate and visualize, explore without the pressure. Explore because it's fun to do. I often think about children playing. Play, the purpose of play is joy. So shouldn't the purpose of our desires really be joy as well, regardless if they come or not? I don't know if you're on this side of social media at the moment, but I'm definitely being fed a lot of Pacey and Joey from Dawson's Creek stuff because Katie Holmes and Joshua Jackson are getting together to film a movie. So I'm not sure if that's coming on your feed, but It's definitely coming on mine. And let me tell you, I'm not mad about it. Love those two. I love seeing all of that. But one quote that keeps coming up when Pacey says to Joey that the mere act of loving you is enough for me. Imagine, oh my Lord, imagine how grounded, how filled up, how graceful and gracious we would be if the mere act of loving our desires was enough. And we weren't so obsessed, so attached, so strangling the life out of experiencing it the exact way we demand, we feel rightful to experience them. Imagine. I'm actually going to do a series coming up on detachment, because detachment from outcome is one of the things that is hardest to do because of our egos. They're so strong. But if we can master detachment and see opportunities to authentically practice detachment, then we are in such empowered magnetism. It's like, if you want something, let it free. And if it returns, it's yours. It's that kind of vibe. But that's coming up in the future. Another thing to do is to really maintain self-belief. Like, this is an opportunity to strengthen that self-belief muscle. Remind yourself that you've done hard things before. And if this feels hard now, if this feels frustrating now, that's okay. It's just building up your resilience. It's building up the belief in yourself. Maybe what you want requires a lot more self-belief than you can ever imagine. And the purpose of this time is to build that. But remember, not everything has to have a reason. Remember, it's a big game of chess and vibrational interaction. What you want might not be ready for you yet. And that could be the pure reason you're here. So let's use it productively. So to regulate those tricky emotions, though, you can do things like breath work. In order to release that impatience and reconnect with the present moment, you can do grounding rituals to anchor into stability when your mind starts racing into frustration and the whys and the why nots. Somatic movement to clear frustration from the body. Great time to be working on your nervous system. An amazing time to be working on your nervous system. To be seeing, am I in fight or flight right now because I'm panicky, because I'm frustrated? Am I actually in freeze and fawn? And maybe is my holding pattern of my own design of protection? And do I actually need to nurture my nervous system at this moment rather than try and fix it externally? So detaching from the when, again, I'm going to go into this a lot in my detachment podcast episodes coming up, but the danger of waiting only for the shot forward is that you'll miss the richness of now. And this is something I personally worked on over the years. How can I be just as happy now whilst also holding space for what I believe will make me even happier? And will it make me even happier? Or is it my job right now to cultivate as much happiness, as much joy and love and fulfillment in my life, regardless of what I want in the future? And not putting the desire on such a pedestal that is going to be the only form of satiation and satisfaction in my life. Remember, you can't always get what you want. Sorry, it's a harsh truth, but it's true. You cannot always get what you want. Not everything is going to work out for you. So you have a very poignant choice here. Do I spend my life miserable because something didn't work out? Or do I learn how to create the passion, the fulfillment, the love, the joy, the happiness, the purpose in every stage of my life, whilst holding space for what I want by working towards expanding and aligning with what I want, but not putting what I want on such a pedestal that it actually really dampens the impact and the influence of the present moment, because the present moment is all we really have. The future is created in the present moment. So if we put ourselves in a holding pattern of only being happy when, of only feeling fulfilled when, of only feeling the love, the purpose, whatever, when, we're going to never get there. We're going to miss the richness of now. And that to me is sad. That to me is a prison of our own making, and one that I'm not willing to create for myself anymore. Focusing on how we show up in the hold, because this is the energy that will carry forward when the release comes. How many times have you really wanted something, and then when you finally got it, the wanting of it was far more intense than the actual experience of it? It's like a letdown because we put it on the pedestal. So how do we show up? How do we show up now? How do we show up with the joy, the optimism, our values? How are they expressed now? Not when the circumstances are right for us that we've determined. The arrow doesn't choose when it's released. The quicker we can accept that, the less frustrated we'll be. Again, not surrendered in apathy, but surrendered in power. The arrow doesn't choose when it's going to be released. The archer does. So in the cosmic sense, you are both the arrow and the archer. But the divine timing of the shot is probably part of your soul contract that you may not be consciously aware of. So to recap, the pullback, the holding pattern that you might feel you're in at the moment, and just so you know, you're not alone, I'm in it. So many of my clients are in it. It is not the absence of process or progress. It's a moment to gather and create more power because you're not falling behind. You're winding up for the exact moment where you can fly the furthest and the truest and the most aligned. Journal. Where are you feeling the pullback in your life, and how can you trust this as preparation rather than an experience of frustration and resistance? Your moment is coming. It's coming. Keep your faith steady, keep your vision clear, and your spirit readied to soar when the timing is right. I hope this episode has held you, reminded you, maybe nurtured you. Maybe you feel less alone now because you're not in this alone. And I'm just sending you so much love as you continue to walk your path with a hell of a lot of love and light.